Hey everyone, Yalda here. In this video, we're diving into Figma, a powerful collaborative tool for designing, prototyping, and sharing interface designs. Whether you're building an app, a website, or just exploring UI UX, Figma has everything you need. We'll begin by setting up Figma, then move step by step through the essentials: creating frames, working with shapes and text, adding images and masks, organizing layers, building components, prototyping interactions, and finally sharing your designs. It might sound like a lot, but don't worry, we'll break it all down. By the end, you'll be confidently designing in Figma. So let's get started. To start using Figma, head over to figma.com. You can also find the link in the description. On the home page, click Get Started and follow the steps to create an account. Once that's done, you land in Figma's onboarding flow. First, enter your name. This is how others will see you when collaborating, and don't worry, you can change it later. Next, asks about your work type. I just pick design and continue. For this step, let's just select other and continue. Then select who you usually collaborate with. I'm gonna pick just me and move on. In this step, you have the option to invite collaborators. You can skip this for now and do it later if needed. Now, why are you using Figma? Choose the option that makes the most sense for you, then click continue. Have you used Figma before? If not, select no, it's my first time and continue. Figma offers 3 plans, but for this tutorial, we'll use the starter plan. It's free and includes all the core features you need to get started. So select starter and then continue. Before diving into the editor, you'll see 3 options. Figma, it's the main design and prototyping tool. Figjam, a whiteboarding tool for brainstorming and team collaboration, and Figma Slides for creating presentation directly in Figma. Let's select design with Figma and click finish. Now Figma welcomes you with a project called Figma Basics. This file is a great introduction to the tool with a guided tutorial at the bottom and pre-made elements to help you practice. Okay, let's go to the draft section and take a quick look around. On the left panel, you'll find recent files, a quick way to access your most recently opened design. Next one is drafts. This is your personal workspace. Any files here are only visible to you. If you share them, others can view but not edit. Think of this as your private sandbox where you can experiment and refine your work. Next, we have all projects. Projects help you organize your designs and collaborate with others. If you right-click on a project, you'll see options to copy the project link to share with others, move it to a different location, and in the settings, you can rename it, update the description, or delete it by moving to the trash. With the starter plan, you can only have one project. If you need more, you'll have to upgrade your plan. Let's delete this existing project so I can show you how to create a new one from scratch. Click on New Project and let's name it Moda, since that's the app we're designing. If you want, you can invite others to edit or view the project, but I'll leave this blank and click Create Project, and we are inside the Moda project. At the top right, you'll see a yellow star icon. This means the project is added to favorites by default. You can find all Start projects in the sidebar under the Start section. If you uncheck it, it will be removed from favorites. And lastly, at the bottom left, you'll find Explore Community. Figma has a huge community where designers share templates, UI kits, icons, plugins, and more, all ready to use in your projects. You can search, browse categories, and even publish your own designs for others to use. If you're looking for pre-made components, icons, or inspiration, this is the perfect place to start. Alright, now let's move on and start designing our app by creating a new design file. If you ever want to start a new design, you have multiple options. Use the buttons at the top of the recent section. Go to the drafts and you'll find a create new button in the top right corner, or hover over drafts and click the plus icon to create a new file. From any of these options, you can choose to start a new design file, create a Fig Jamboard, build a slide deck, or import an existing file from your computer. Let's click the plus button next to the drafts to create a new design file. This opens up a blank canvas in the Figma editor. On the left, you'll see the Layers panel. This is where all your design elements will be listed as we build out the app. Let's click on the file name at the top and rename it to Moda. Now we need a frame, which is essentially the container for our design. Other design tools might call this an artboard, but in Figma, it's a frame. Press F key on your keyboard or select the frame tool from the toolbar. On the right hand side, you'll see preset frame sizes for different devices. Since we are designing an app, let's go with iPhone 16 Plus for our frame. This frame will be our home screen, so let's rename it by hitting Command R or Control R on Windows and typing home. Next, we need a background image. So let's grab the image tool and upload an image from the computer. When I click inside the frame, the image is placed within it. But since it's much larger than the frame, we can only see a small portion of it. To view the full image, select the frame, go to the design panel and uncheck clip content. Now you can see the entire image, even the parts extending beyond the frame. Let's hit Shift 2 to zoom into the selection. When you select the image, you'll notice this little lock icon in the design panel. When it's turned on, the aspect ratio stays locked, meaning you can resize the image proportionally. If you hold the Option or Alt key while resizing, the image will scale from the center instead of the edges. Now if I check clip content, it hides the parts of image that extend outside the frame. But to show you the image setting, let's hit Command Z or Ctrl Z on Windows to undo that. In the design panel under Fill, you'll see different image fitting options. If you select Crop, you can adjust the visible area of your image. To fine-tune the crop, double-click on the image. You'll notice your cursor changes to a plus icon, allowing you to drag and reposition the image within the cropped area. We also have some adjustment slider for the image. Let's lower the saturation a bit for a more subtle look. Let's grab the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle. Next, head to the fill section and switch it to gradient. Click on the first color, grab the eyedropper and pick a dark blue from the image. I'll copy the color code and paste it for the second color. Now let's add another stop to the gradient bar. To create a smooth fade, I'll set the opacity of the first and last colors to 0. This helps blend the gradient seamlessly into the background, making a perfect spot for our logo. For a finishing touch, let's add an effect. I'll choose background blur and that soften everything nicely, making the logo stand out. I think something around 6 works well. Let's rename it to logo background. Now we are going to design a simple logo together. I'm gonna grab the text tool and type model. Let's set the font size to 64 and pick a nicer font. I think Arizona is a good choice. Then let's grab the scale tool and enlarge it slightly. Now that I'm happy with the text, I'll convert it into a shape. To do that, right-click and select Outline Stroke. Then I'll hit Shift-Command-G or Shift-Control-G on Windows to ungroup the letters. Now I'm gonna grab the M, make it a little bit bigger and position it here. Looks good. Let's select all the letters and group them by pressing Command or Control G and rename the group to logo. If I select any object under the position section, you'll see alignment option. Since I've only selected one object, the alignment will be relative to the frame. Let's align it to horizontal centers. The final element I want to add is a button. If I simply draw a rectangle, give it a red color and type text inside, even if I group them, they'll still act as separate elements, meaning I'd have to adjust each one individually. The right way to do this is auto layout. Auto layout is a feature in Figma that makes elements adjust dynamically. Instead of manually resizing and repositioning objects, auto layout keeps everything aligned and responsive. It's great for buttons, cards, lists, anything that needs to adapt as content changes. Let's delete the rectangle, select the text, and hit Shift A to apply auto layout. Now Figma has wrapped the text inside a frame. Let's take a look at the auto layout settings. Over the right panel, you'll see option to adjust padding, spacing, and alignment. Padding controls the space around the text inside the frame. Spacing lets you adjust the gap between multiple items if you add more elements inside. And with alignment, you can position the text exactly where you want inside the button. This makes the button fully responsive, so no matter how much text we add, the frame will automatically adjust to fit. Let's give it a color so you can see the changes better. Adjust horizontal and vertical padding. I'm gonna round the corners around 25, looks good. Now the text and background are linked, meaning if I type a longer word, the button resizes automatically. Let's center align the button and hit Shift 1 to zoom out and see everything. I think it will look better in all caps, so let's update that. Perfect. Now let's move on to creating the second screen. If you grab the frame tool and hover over the existing frame, you'll notice two small blue dots on both sides. When you hover over them, they turn into a plus button, allowing you to quickly duplicate the frame. If you simply click, it copies everything inside. But if you hold Option or Alt key while clicking, you'll get a blank frame with the same dimensions. This new frame will be our search screen, so let's rename it to Search. I want to match the frame color to our home screen, so click on the color, then grab the eyedropper tool or simply press Ctrl C to pick a color from the background image. Now let's add the title for this screen and place it at the top center of the frame. I'm gonna add a menu to the app. For the first item, we'll insert a setting icon from Figma's asset library. Head over to the Assets panel, type Settings in the search bar, and browse the options. Let's go with this one. The dark mode version and size 48 works well, so insert it. Now let's use the Shape tool to draw our own search icon. Grab the ellipse tool and hold Shift to create a perfect circle. If you hold Option or Alt as well, the circle will be drawn from the center. Now let's add a white stroke, remove the fill, and set the stroke thickness to the 4 or 5. You can adjust the stroke position inside, center, or outside. I'll keep it inside. Next, we need the handle for our magnifying glass. Grab the line tool, click and drag to draw a short line. You can double click to adjust the starting or ending points. Let's set the stroke size to 5 and make the ends rounded for a softer look. To merge these shapes into one, select both and click Union under the Boolean groups. This combines them into a single shape. But don't worry, you can still edit the original shapes inside this group. Finally, let's hit Command or Control R and rename the icon. For the next icon, we are going to use a plugin. Click on the action icon in the toolbar, go to Plugins and Widgets, and feel free to explore any plugin you like. Let's search for Iconify. This is a great plugin with a huge collection of icons. Click Run to open it. Now I'll search for a cart icon to add to our menu. I'm gonna choose this one. Before importing, you can adjust the color, size, and choose the frame you want to place it in. Also, you can decide how you want to import it. I'll select Import as Frame and then close the plugin. Now it's added to our search frame. Let's zoom out a bit to find it. There it is. Now that we have all our icons, let's select them, align them vertically, and distribute the horizontal spacing evenly. I'm gonna add 4 categories to the search screen. To get the right size, I'll use a layout grid. First, I'll click the plus button and choose columns. I'll set the count to 2, increase the opacity so it's easier to see, and set the gutter to 2. Then I'll add another layout grid, but this time I'll choose rows with the same settings. Now I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle. We don't need the grid anymore, so let's turn it off for now. I also need a text label for the category name. So I'll add some text, align it to the center, and move it slightly toward the top. This looks good. Now I'll select both the rectangle and text and create a component. A component is a reusable design element. Instead of creating each category from scratch, you'll use a single main component, and any changes we make to it will automatically update all its instances, saving time and keeping our design consistent. Let's rename this category and move it aside. We can find all the components we create in the Assets panel. So let's grab the category component and insert an instance. An instance is a copy of a component. You can customize the text, images, or colors while still inheriting properties from the main component. Since the search frame was already selected, the instance is placed inside the frame. Now I'll double click on the rectangle, go to the field section, and instead of a solid color, I'll select image and upload one from my computer. I'll also change the text color to white and rename it to women. I want the title to be center aligned, so I'm gonna go back to the main component, change the text justification to center, and as you see, the update automatically applies to the instance. Now let's create the next category. Instead of inserting a new instance, I'll duplicate the women category by holding Option or Alt and dragging. Then I'll double click on the image, upload a new one, and rename the title to Men. To show you how components work, I'll insert another instance from the Asset panel. As you can see, the title is still black. Let's go back to the main component, change the text color to white, and now all instances update instantly. We need two more categories, accessories and kits. So let's create them. I think the text for the accessories looks a bit too big. So let's go back to the main components, select the text and use the shortcut Shift Command less than to reduce the font size. I also think it's better to swap the kits and accessories category. If I select all four categories, you'll notice little pink dots in the center of each one. If I click and drag, I can swap them easily. I'm not happy with the background color, so let's change it. I'll select the frame, hit Ctrl C, and use the eyedropper tool to pick a color from the image. That looks much better. Alright, that's it for the search screen. Now let's move on and create the next screen. I'm gonna grab the frame tool, hover over the search frame, and this time just click without holding Alt or Option to duplicate it. Now I'll delete the categories and change the title to Women. Since this screen will be dedicated to women's search results, let's rename it accordingly. We're gonna add 3 categories here and I'll also show you how to use a mask. Hit O to grab the ellipse tool and draw a circle. Next, I'll insert an image, make it smaller and place it on top of the circle. Now I'll select both and create a mask. You can do this by right-clicking and selecting Use as Mask, or find the option in the right side panel, or simply use the shortcut Ctrl-Command-M. Even after masking, you can still move or resize the image inside the mask. Now let's add a title for this. I'll name it Dress, set the font size, and center align it. Then I'll select both the image and text and align them to the center. To create another category, I'll hold Option and drag to duplicate it. By double clicking, I can go inside the mask and replace the image. This one is slightly larger, so let's open the fill drop down and instead of fill, choose fit and then resize it. Perfect. Finally, let's rename dress to outerwear. Now let's duplicate it again and place it to the left. As you'll notice, Figma shows the gap between objects, and when it matches to the spacing of the one on the right, we can place it correctly. I'll replace the image and title for this one as well. We could add more details for this screen, but let's move on to the prototyping. What is prototyping in Figma? Prototyping allows us to create interactive experiences by linking different frames together, simulating how users will navigate through the app. It's a great way to test the flow of your design before developing it. Now I want to make the Get Started button navigate to the search screen. When we're in prototype mode, If you hover over any element, you'll notice it gets wrapped in a blue frame with small dots on the edges. These dots turn into a plus icon when hovered over. By clicking and dragging, you can connect it to the destination frame. In the interaction window, we have a few key settings that control how our prototype behaves. Trigger defines what starts the interaction, like clicking a button or navigate to another screen. Action determines what happens once the trigger is activated. Destination is where the interaction leads, meaning the frame or screen the user will be taken to. Animation controls how the transition appears, creating smooth and dynamic effects. These settings help bring our design to life, making it feel interactive. For this button, I'll set the trigger to untap the destination to the search screen and leave the default animation. Now let's connect the women category to its respective page. This time I'll choose slide in as the animation. Feel free to explore different animations and easing curves to see what works best. Let's leave the duration as it is and close it. Next, I want to link the search icon in the menu back to the main search screen. But there's a problem right now. My icons aren't components. Imagine if this app had many pages with the same menu. Without components, I have to manually connect every search icon to the search screen on each page. That's inefficient. Instead, by making a component and placing instances on all pages, I only need to connect the main component once and all instances will follow the same interaction automatically. Now that we're done with the prototyping, let's click on the flow and preview the app. Okay, let's see how to share our work with others. Click on the share button and you'll see several options. First one, invite others. You can give people access to view or edit your design. Copy dev mode link. This is useful for developers to inspect and grab code snippets. Prototype link shares just interactive prototype instead of the entire file. With publish to community, if you want to share your design with the Figma community, you can make it public here. With embed code, you can get an HTML embed code to paste your design into a website. These options make it easy to collaborate, get feedback, or share your work with the world. Alright, now you know the basics of designing in Figma, and I hope you are excited to start creating your own amazing designs. If you found this tutorial helpful, please consider subscribing. And until next time, elevate and create.